So if you're tired of finding the perfect campsite and then not being able to get the cell service you need, you might want to look at a cell booster.
We get asked all the time, how do you work from the road? How do you get internet? So we wanted to put this video together to show you exactly how we do it. In short, we do recommend the RV65 WeBoost. However, there are some drawbacks that you should maybe know about before you buy it, so keep watching. Before we get started, we have one small favor. If you want more content like this about the outdoors, RV life, or maybe even you're looking to full-time in RV, please hit the subscribe and like. It really helps us out with the YouTube algorithm as we build our channel. Thanks so much. First and foremost, it's really important to set the expectation with your cell booster. I think that both of us sort of thought it was this magical stick that you put in the air and boom, you had great service. Not the case. And we watched several other YouTube videos before we bought our booster, and they would literally drive into the middle of nowhere, have no signal, and then, I don't know, I mean, it doesn't work like this for us. They would turn the booster on and it would have service.
We've since learned that you have to have at least a small inkling of a cell signal at first to boost, because all you're doing is you're taking an existing cell signal and then making it better. So you can't really just drive into the middle of nowhere and expect to find a cell signal, which is what we thought you could do. And we got really frustrated. We were on the phone with support, like, why does this product not work? And once we learned to adjust those expectations, we've been really happy with it. It really opens the door to a lot of amazing sites.
Yeah, which I think is important to talk about. We're full-time and we boondock dispersed camp 99.9% of the time. And we wanted to go into full-timing with that intention. You know, we did not want to be married to only campgrounds. It was really important for us to get off the beaten path and to be able to really be immersed in nature. We like having space, we like having our dog outside. You know, we didn't want to be in an RV park right next to people. So the next logical question is, how exactly do we find camping areas with known service? So we actually have the Campendium upgraded Pro version, and it's really neat because there's a cell phone feature. So you can hit, you know, Verizon, AT&T, or Sprint, whatever your carrier is, and then look at the map and it will actually show you if there's signal or not. You can also look at the individual dispersed camping site on Campendium, and there's usually reviews, and people are pretty good about posting about cell coverage and whether or not it's fast, and sometimes they even put download speeds in, which is super helpful. So for our data usage, we have one Verizon hotspot with 30 gigs, and then each of our phone plans, so 2 phones, we have a 15 gigabyte hotspot. If we do start to run low, what we'll do is we'll go into town and work at coffee shops more. We've also considered buying another hotspot. You know, it just depends on how much money you want to spend for data.
All right, so let's get into the nitty gritty. We're gonna show you what comes in the kit, and then we're gonna show you some basic installation tips and how to set it up. We're also gonna give you some tips on how to get the best cell signal when you get to your site. It takes a little bit of trial and error, but once you get the hang of it, it's really pretty straightforward. So this right here is the outdoor antenna, and it mounts on this telescoping pole that's about 25 feet long. And then from this outdoor antenna, you've got a coax cable that you gotta run inside your trailer. So we've done that right here. And the kit includes this flat coaxial cable so that if you've got a door or a slide or a window, that cable will fit right in there like that. So we've installed the booster right here. It's just inside our front storage compartment. And there's a reason for that, which I'll get into in a minute. So let's go inside and I'll show you the rest of the system. The signal comes through the outside antenna, it goes through the booster, which is amplifying the signal, and then it comes to the indoor antenna, which is what broadcasts that signal to your cell devices. So under the table here, we've got our indoor antenna mounted, and what you want to do with that is mount it as close as possible to where you're going to be using your devices. That has its most effectiveness within about a 5-foot range. Once you get more than about 15 feet or so away from it, it really loses its effectiveness. Now we're in the front of the trailer, just above that storage locker where I showed you the coaxial cable entering the trailer. So it comes into that storage locker, it goes under this nightstand, and then we've got this aluminum conduit over here. So the main reason we installed this aluminum conduit was actually to route the cables for our solar system through the trailer and keep them concealed. That was actually a great opportunity though to run the coaxial cable throughout the whole trailer and pretty much keep it obscured from view. The booster is the one thing that requires electrical power in the whole system, so make sure you have an AC outlet close by that you can plug into. So we ran it in, the conduit as I just showed you, it goes under the shower, under the wardrobe, under the fridge, under the couch, and then finally terminates at the indoor antenna.
So you don't have to get that techie with it. My husband's kind of a nerd, love him. But you can just run the cable, it can be in sight, it doesn't really matter that much. We just wanted to tuck it away because we are full time and aesthetically it looks nice. If you're new to cell boosters and you're not really sure how it works, pretty much what it does is you're sticking up an antenna and it's taking all the cell signals, so whether it's Verizon, AT&T, Sprint, T-Mobile, and it's gonna amplify them inside the trailer. It doesn't matter what carrier you have. Your cell phone is actually smart enough to be able to pick up whatever signal the WeBoost is boosting. And the WeBoost picks up everything. That's the great thing about it. So whether you have Sprint, Verizon, AT&T, your cell phone will be able to connect and have a faster signal. We chose the WeBoost RV65 because it's directional. And that means it's a little bit better of a booster than an omnidirectional antenna. The directionality of it allows the stability of the signal to be better. With the omnidirectional antennas, though you don't have as much setup and you can just put it on your camper and not really touch it, you're gonna be pulling in a lot more signals, and that could lead to less stability and overall less signal strength for the booster.
So let's go ahead and get this bad boy set up. So this is actually gonna be a really good example because we just got to the site and we're setting up the WeBoost for the first time. So we'll be able to show you how well it works in real time. So the first thing I like to do is to get our coaxial cable hooked up to the outside antenna. So now that I've got my coaxial cable connected, I'm gonna extend this telescoping pole. There are 5 sections to this pole, and if the signal's actually pretty good already, we'll just put up a couple sections. So here we're getting decent download speeds, so I'm just gonna telescope it by about 2 sections. Okay, so I've got 2 sections extended, and I'm just gonna give it a couple twists, and what that'll do is wrap that coax cable around the pole, so it'll look nicer and it'll just keep the coax cable from clanking around in the wind. Now the kit comes with 2 brackets that have an adhesive backing. So you put these on the side of your RV, and then this bracket on the pole slides into this receiver, and that's what keeps the pole upright. So on the Airstream, it's a little challenging to use these. You've got a straight pole here, and so you need a straight line between the 2 mounting points. And WeBoost recommends having a 4-foot separation between those mounting points. But on an Airstream, the entire outside of the trailer is curved, and so it's impossible to have 2 mounts that intercept the pole. So we're living life on the edge. We only have 1. And this actually bit us a few months back when this entire pole was at full extension and we watched it right in front of our eyes topple over in a windstorm when this adhesive mount came undone. So ideally, you would have 2 of these. We've actually just ordered a flagpole stand that we're going to use to support this pole instead of the adhesive mounts. So that will sit under either a tongue jack or a tire or a stabilizer and be a lot sturdier than these adhesive mounts. So the kit also includes a small base plate. The base of the pole just goes into that base plate, and then we come over here and slide this bracket into the mount. Once that's done, just close it off and you're good to go. One important safety tip to mention if you're using these brackets that are mounted to the side of your trailer. You'll see here that once this pole is secured to the bracket, there's a fixed distance between this bracket and the bottom of the pole. So if your trailer or your RV is not stabilized, meaning your tongue jack's down on your trailer or you've got your stabilizers out in your RV, there's the potential for your RV to rock as you're walking through it and your suspension compresses. And what can happen then is that can either push this pole into the ground, or if the opposite side of the trailer compresses, allow that pole to lift off. And at that point, you're either putting a bunch of stress on this bracket trying to pull it off the trailer, or this base plate is losing its connection with the ground and this entire pole is held in place just by these mounts. So you could easily rip off the mounts when you're doing that and your whole pole could come crashing down. So don't install this pole until you've got everything leveled out and stabilized. Now we're gonna connect the other end of that coax cable to that short cable that goes through the door to the booster. Now I know that the nearest town where we had a really good signal is approximately in that direction. So I'm gonna start out by orienting the outside antenna in that direction. Now when you first set up the booster, and then anytime you rotate it to a new position as you're looking for a signal, you want to disconnect it from power and then reconnect it. The reason you want to do this is every time you turn the booster on, it resets. And what it's doing is looking for any interference and trying to cancel that out. So the reason I mounted this just inside our front storage locker is I can quickly go in there when I'm out here tinkering with the pole and just quickly disconnect and reconnect that power source. All right, let's go inside and see what kind of service we're getting. Before you turn on the booster, you want to do a baseline speed test. So what I like to do is go to speedtest.net. It's always a good sign if I can load the website in the first place. If I can't, that usually means that we don't have a good enough signal to boost. So I'm right here on speedtest.net, and I'm just going to hit go, and we're going to see what our baseline download speed is. So that just tested at 18.94 megabits per second download, which is actually really good. So we're gonna go plug in the booster and see what happens next. I've got the booster plugged in now, and after giving it about 15 seconds to boot up and find the best signal, I'm going to go back to my phone and test again. Each time I first turn on the booster, or when I rotate it looking for a new signal, I like to turn airplane mode on and off. And what that does is help your phone more quickly reset its data connection. Sometimes there's a bit of a lag, so it won't instantly start to pick up the better signal when you've got it boosted. So I've got myself on airplane mode right now. I'm gonna take it off of airplane mode, and we're gonna do another test. Okay, so this speed test with the booster turned on, I got 17 megabits per second download, which is actually worse than having it off. So this is actually a really good example where when you're in an area with a pretty good cell signal, sometimes turning the booster on can force you to pick up the wrong signal or create more interference that actually leads to reduced download speeds. When we were up at our previous campsite in Washington, we actually went from about 2 megabits per second download without the booster up to, I think it was 15 or so, having it up. So that was a really good example of going from a bad connection to a much better connection with the booster. We'll show you that right now. We've got the booster up and everything's turned on, so we're gonna see what sort of download speeds we're getting right now. This will take just a few seconds. Now I've unplugged the booster, and you can see I've still got 2 bars, but remember, bars aren't everything. So we're gonna hit test again and see what happens now. Now look at that. That's a huge difference. So I'm gonna go outside and see if rotating the outside antenna around helps improve the boosted signal. So ironically enough, after going out there and trying every possible orientation of the antenna, lowering it down some as well, this is actually one of those spots where it works better to not have the booster up. Putting the booster up consistently lowers the download speeds by as much as half. So we're just gonna give it a try here without the booster up. Sometimes it's still helpful to have the booster at night when more campers come in and there's more competition for that cell signal. Sometimes the booster can help you sort of outcompete them, I guess, which is sort of evil and sort of awesome at the same time. But anyway, as you just saw from the video from our site up in Washington, the booster can be a huge game changer and allow you to get actual work done. Other times it works better just not to use it. So again, that's a little bit of that trial and error that you just have to go through when you go to set it up and as you're learning the ins and outs of the booster. In essence, what we found is there's not an exact science to it, and no matter where you are, a little bit of experimentation is usually necessary.
So would we buy the WeBoost RV 65 again?
I'd say so.
Yeah, yeah, we've really actually dialed it in. I think the first couple of months we weren't super happy with it because we were trying to learn it and had unrealistic expectations like we talked about earlier, but we found that it just opens the doors up so much more to where we can camp and work. And so we would definitely, in a heartbeat, buy it again.
Yeah, for some applications, the omnidirectional option might be a better fit for your needs. If you have a van or a small RV that you're moving frequently, this does require some setup and teardown. So the Drive Reach, which we'll also post a link to, might be a better option for you. But again, the RV65 has the most potential to boost a signal because it has a longer extension on the pole and it's got the directional antenna.
And when we bought this, we were envisioning sitting in our campsite all day long, enjoying nature and working on our Airstream. And that's exactly what we do. So it was definitely the right booster for us. Again, if you're a van and you're moving a lot, the omnidirectional probably would be perfect.
Well, thanks so much for watching this video. We really hope you found it helpful. There's also a blog post that goes with this that really goes into depth on the installation, the setup, and some additional tips on how to get the best signal. So make sure to go check that out. There's a link in the description below.
Let us know in the comments below if this video was helpful if you're thinking about getting a booster. And if you're already on the road and have a booster, let us know your setup and how it works for you. I think there's a lot of different things you can do to make internet on the road totally possible. And don't forget to like and subscribe. We post new content every week for people like you who are looking to get outside more or maybe jump in an RV and live full time.
Thanks so much for watching, and we'll see you next time.
If you're new to Cellburst, Boosters.